Good morning. Welcome to the All49ers show. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Jose Sanchez. We're starting a half hour earlier now, 8:30 Pacific, because Kyle Shanahan's doing his press conference an hour earlier now on Wednesday for no apparent reason, just to mess with our schedule. So blame him. Anyway, news came out yesterday that Freudian slip. Jimmy Garoppolo is eligible to come back in 7 or 8 weeks. That would mean the divisional round or the NFC Championship. I think we were all waiting for the other quarterback to get cleared. Trey Lance, the guy who broke his ankle week 2. He had surgery. We've seen him walking around. I gave him a fist bump. It was a vigorous fist bump. Based on the fist bump, I feel like he's ready to play right now. But no, Niners won't let him, and they don't seem like they really want him to play while Jimmy Garoppolo is just chomping at the bit. What do you think of this? Why can Jimmy come back, but not Trey?
Because look, Trey Lance, I get why it's better to put Jimmy back versus Trey, and I 100% agree with that, because you're not going to want to roll Trey out there. So, I mean, even when the return timeline is nearly the same, nearly identical, even if whatever, it's like give or take a couple weeks, Jimmy, you don't have to worry about still that learning curve. And with Trey, you're not only have to worry about that, you still have to throw him into the fire pit of the playoffs. That is a heck of an ordeal to throw your young player in, coming off a pretty serious injury. It doesn't really behoove or benefit to put Lance there. Look, I was 100% for the fact bring Trey back if it was just Purdy. Like, say Jimmy was absolutely not able to come out, then it's like, okay, yes, then you're probably most likely going to need to ponder the idea of bringing Trey back for the playoffs, at least in a backup standpoint, depending on how Purdy's looking, if he doesn't get hurt. But Jimmy, at least it's like I could just put him in there or keep him as a backup and not worry. Versus Trey, there's still that learning experience, because that's pretty much what we were so excited about for this whole season. He was going to get a whole season. We knew he was going to have some rough points, and then hopefully by this time this season, he was going to start looking more polished and being good for the team and elevating him. But now that's kind of taken away. You're still going to have to account for that. And putting him in a high-stakes, high-atmosphere environment, season on the line, I don't think that's ideal. That's not a good landing point for your supposed future of the franchise, if he is still that.
Yeah, but the problem with all that is the Niners haven't said any of that. They never said he's the future of the franchise, or we're starting him, but he's a project, and we need to roll with the punches. They never said that. They just said he's a starter this year, and they gave him all the first-team reps. There was no competition. They didn't want Jimmy Garoppolo to be at camp. I mean, their narrative, their message to the world was that we believe in Trey. He's our starter. And it seems to me that any other starter who broke their ankle week 2 and was ahead of schedule or looking good, they'd be kind of leaning on him like, hey, can we get you back for the playoffs, please? We need you. You're a starter. But they're treating Trey like he's not a starter. No, they're treating Jimmy like he's a starter. Jimmy, can you please come back in 7 or 8 weeks? We might need you. But Trey, it's like, you know what? We'll come back to you next year. Maybe, if we don't have Tom Brady. It just seems really strange. Like, they said they liked him. They said he was the starter. They didn't have a competition. He didn't get benched. He got injured. And now they're like, you know what? I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
wow,
I don't know.
How you changed. Wow.
I'm not too.
If Nick Bosa had the injury that Trey Lance had week 2, I just feel like there would be all kind of like, hey, man, he's ahead of schedule. He might come back. But it's Trey. And they're like, he's a project now. He wasn't a project in August.
He's a level player. And again, you're not going to – I just don't think it's –
That's true. I just thought Trey was the starting quarterback of the 49ers. They're treating him like he's back on the like his 2021 again. This is a redshirt year. It's another redshirt year. Okay.
It is another redshirt year. Yeah.
It's another redshirt, even if he's healthy, because he didn't – okay.
Now it's about winning again. Look, even that first from starting from
I
week
thought
1,
he was starting because he gave the Niners the best chance to win. I thought that's what they said. I don't know. Guess not.
Well, it's because things kind of change, man. Look, I think it was all about projections, and it's the same thing. To me, it was always week 1 to the end of the season. We already knew there was going to be up and down, some stretches where it was going to be bad, some stretches were going to be good, and then ideally the hope was by December, November, when the playoff stretch is starting to hit, the guys clicking, the mistakes are less, the highs are more consistent, and you're not going to – look, you're going to try to develop a quarterback and have him come off injury, rusty, playoff, like all the factors kind of say like, nah, that's pretty sketch. Versus you can go with a guy who you already know who's playing pretty well this season before the injury, has experience in the playoffs. As bad as he has been in the playoffs, it's still better because you know it. And you put Trey in there and say, for God's sakes, he plays terrible and takes hits, and that's like messing with the psyche. It just doesn't sound like a great spot to put a rookie quarterback, essentially what Trey is, into that spot. Where at least Purdy now, he's going to have more games under his belt, assuming he's healthy, than Trey going into the playoffs.
Let me ask you a question. So I keep asking Kyle Shanahan about Trey Lance, and it's fair to say he doesn't really appreciate the question. He doesn't want to answer this question. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, hell no, he doesn't want to answer.
He does not like this question, and he kind of doesn't really answer it. So what you're saying, because what he's saying essentially is that Trey's not ready. What you're saying is that you think Trey's probably ready, and they're deciding not to play him because he doesn't give him the best chance to win, given what's gone on the last 2 years. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying, is that how you read the situation? Is that how you read the 49ers viewpoint here?
I just think they're scared to throw him in there. I kind of feel like they're scared to throw him in there for their own sake and for his sake. I mean, shoot, don't forget that when Trey got hurt, they thought Jimmy gave him the chance to win. Some players, all of a sudden, it's just the way the offense was already operating with Garoppolo, because it is a different offense and a different attacking approach to the game that Kyle Shanahan has with the Jimmy Garoppolo. And with Purdy, it shouldn't see too much of a drop-off in terms of what they're doing because they kind of have a little bit of a similarity. Whereas Lance, it's like, now we got to wait for this guy to have all these learning curves. How's his psyche? It just feels like there's more of a risk factor for them. And especially if you're considering him for next year, that it seems there's more to lose than there is to gain. You throw him in there.
Sure. But what you're suggesting, I'm not arguing with you at all. I'm agreeing with you. But what I'm doing is just describing what you're saying. What you're describing is internally the Niners privately being like, hey, he might be physically ready to come back, but let's not say it. Let's just put him on ice. We don't want him to make his 5th career start in the playoffs. We'd rather do this with Brock Purdy. There'd be no pressure on Brock. There'd be a ton of pressure on Trey. We don't need to do that to him. So when Grant asks, is Trey ready? Just say no, even though he might be ahead of schedule. He might be kind of ready. Is that what we don't know? But is that your best guess as to what's going on internally?
Yeah, because I say his injury was like he got injured like week 9, and he already had like a nice handful of games under his belt, and he was like, oh, he's out for the rest of the regular season, but he could have back in playoffs. They might be more inclined to play him into the season
because you'd have like 2 months of good play like Jimmy had.
Yeah, like at least it's like, hey, at least we saw like now it's like, God, we still have the mystery box here in Trey Lance. Right. I don't know what I'm getting versus I know what I'm getting with Jimmy. And heck, Jimmy's playing the best ball since he has since 2019. So I think that would be also a disservice to Trey Lance to throw him in there because not like he's gonna say no. He'd be like, yeah, coach, throw me in there. And then all of a sudden he's like, the playoffs is like too much. I mean, look how Tua played just now in a playoff game against the Niners. You know, that was a playoff atmosphere with playoff stakes. He was shaky. I mean, I remember watching. I don't know if you pay attention too much to the Miami sideline, but on the TV, they showed Tua running up and down the sideline, jumping up, getting all juiced, and I'm like, this guy is going to miss throws. Because to me, I remember always watching like other quarterbacks like Derek Carr, they get hyped up on the sideline. Yeah. They're over there shanking throws, and it's like, geez, you're going to be off. So to me, it's like there's so much like the mental aspect of the game needs to not be understated, especially with quarterbacks.
I just think it's really interesting that they went from he's our starter, he's our guy, to, you know what, let's just not talk about him until next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, nothing against him. He's still. It's tough. It's tough, and yeah, it's true. Like, you called him the mystery box. There's a lot of truth to that. At least with Jimmy and Brock, you know exactly what you're gonna get. With Trey, it's like you have no idea from quarter to quarter, throw to throw, and you're hoping that at the end of the process, he's freaking Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen kind of thing. But can you expect that after what's happened this year? Hard to say. But I think it's just interesting that the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo just highlights that there's something fishy going on here. And maybe they're doing the right thing with Trey, but it just feels like they're not being transparent. I mean, Jimmy's ready, but Trey's not. Okay. Sure. But I get it. But at the same time, you're not telling us. It doesn't really feel like you're really being transparent. Fair enough. James says, you notice Jeff Wilson Jr.'s awful chip block on Bosa's sack. Also, Mostert poor gave up effort on Bosa's strip fumble. No, I didn't. But good for pointing it out in their faces. How dare they be former 49ers that went to other teams? I do think, though, when Mostert started talking, that was a mistake. In retrospect, the Dolphins acted like a bunch of pretenders that whole week. Like, what? Why are you talking? Beat the Niners. The Niners didn't talk.
Yeah.
They just beat you by a lot. I don't know. Darth Mexican says, I could care less if Niners even win at this point. I'm just like, finally something new to watch and be excited about. Let's go BP. My hits have been really up the last few days, and I think it's because not necessarily it's Brock Purdy. It's because people feel it's like a moratorium on Jimmy.
Breath of fresh air. It's like when you eat the same food week in, week out, and I was like, wait, something different? Oh my God, I can enjoy this now.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel about the Jimmy Garoppolo experience. It's just so the same every day, and I'm like, I don't want this meal anymore.
It's the same every year. He got injured. He's out for the year again. Again.
And now we have a quarterback where we don't know what the hell is going to happen. It's great. And for the first time in like more than half a decade, it's really exciting. The real G squared says, would Niners have won that Super Bowl with Alex Smith? Which Super Bowl? The one with Kaepernick or the one with Jimmy?
Let's say it's with Jimmy.
I don't know. I don't know if they would have. I don't know if Alex Smith would have beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. How about that? I don't think so.
I think I just think as Jimmy, especially in that fourth quarter, left so much on the table, like in the middle of the field, like he was leaving so many receivers open. I think Alex would have been more inclined to hit those guys.
He might have put up more than 20, but I don't know if he would have put up more than 31.
Because honestly, in that Super Bowl, I thought Jimmy for 3 quarters was playing solid. Like he was playing fine.
Yeah, he was playing. Yeah,
it was that fourth quarter when the guy had like I think he had like a 4 quarterback rating of 4.0.
Yeah, it was like the worst fourth quarter ever.
Terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like that episode of South Park where Butters is a tap dancer and he's like the best tap dancer ever, but then his shoe falls off and like everyone.
Oh, and pretty much everything just goes to hell. Yeah,
that's what happened. He was like,
literally what happened.
Oh no! Yeah,
beautifully, and everything just collapsed.
Everything. Josh Wyatt says, where is the 7 to 8 weeks number coming from? Standard downtime on a non-Liz Frank foot break is 5 to 6 weeks. That's a massive difference for the narrative. I don't know. The 7 to 8 week number, I'm guessing, is coming from the agent. If this report came from Adam Schefter, so
1,000%. That's where coming from. I mean, Niners didn't say nothing, like you said. Kyle didn't say nothing.
They'll talk today.
I'm just wondering why they're leaking that. What's the big deal about leaking that? What's the benefit to Jimmy getting that? So like, people know, like, hey, look, he's still trying to come back. He's not ruled out, or something like that. Well, like, trying to put his toughness in question, or
the Niners are trying to rally around Brock Purdy. This feels like a leak from Jimmy. Hey, don't forget about me.
No, I understand that, but
I want to play. Don't forget about me. Don't phase me out. Don't give me the Trey Lance treatment. I want to play football. Don't put me on ice next to Trey Lance. No, I need to get paid because Jimmy Garoppolo just went from he might get a lucrative $100 million extension in the offseason to hurt again.
He's going to come back.
And maybe he'll get another incentive-based one-year deal. Like, that's where he's at right now. So it would be great if he could come back. It would be great if he could come back and finish the season and win the Super Bowl. If he could do that, he might just get that contract again.
That report that came out game day about him they've actually thought about him coming back if the conditions are right. Yeah, I was selling that to Kingdom Come. Now I think it's more likely that he got hurt, that like him coming back becomes a little bit, more of reality.
Also, keep in mind that he's not coming back to the Niners next year, most likely. And the more money he gets on the free agent market, the bigger the comp pick the Niners get. If he gets $16, $17 million a year on the free agent market, the Niners get a third-round comp pick. So this is a little bit of a pump and dump. They're not bringing him back. But if he can play at the end of the year, and if he's a slight upgrade over Brock Purdy, and if, one good game in the Super Bowl that they win because of Nick Bosa and the defense leads to some team giving Jimmy Garoppolo $100 million, like that's good for the 49ers. So just something to think about. They've been trying to pump and dump Jimmy Garoppolo for years, freaking years. He is the Bitcoin of the 49ers roster. They're trying to convince the league, hey man, this dude is worth something. They're like, that is not real. It's nothing. They're like, no, it is. I swear to God. He's Bitcoin. Sorry, that's a terrible analogy. Niners Daddy says if Jimmy's return is more likely than Trey based upon development and not injury, I don't agree. Can't trust any quarterback decision but Kyle makes at this point. Well, that's fair. I'm just excited about Brock Purdy. I've been watching his highlights, and I have a lot to say about Brock. We're going to go to Brock in a second because it's all about Brock now. It's Brock's world, and we're living in it. Glass Half Full guy says, is Trey eligible to start practicing or do they have to take him off IR? They have to medically clear him, then take him off IR, which they haven't done.
Yeah, medically clear him and then activate his window. They could activate his window.
Yep.
And then not activate him at all, just so he gets 3 weeks. You know?
True. Is that the creativity that Kyle was talking about? Maybe.
Because after 21 days, then it'll be like, are you at the 21st day? Are you activating him or not? Otherwise, 3 weeks of practice, that's it. And then, no, we're not. All right, well, you didn't waste your last 2 activations left.
Chris Grove says Trey's growth from last year's AZ to Houston game was huge. Just need reps. I believe if he's back week 18, they will be more than fine in the playoffs. That's how I feel. I feel like if he's cleared,
that's crazy.
He should play. He's a starting quarterback on the team. You can't dude, I was there. We were there in training camp. You can't all of a sudden go from August being Brock Purdy's nice, but we'll give him the 3rd string reps to in December being like, yeah, we think Brock Purdy gives us the best chance to win. Like, man, that's a wild swing of opinion. What the hell is going on here? You're invested in this guy, and now all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I changed my mind. Like, come on. I don't know. That's the way I feel, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. The Real G Square says Alex Smith over Kaepernick Super Bowl. I don't know. Again, they had to score hella points in that game, and Kaepernick played well in that game until he got to the very end. I don't know about that. That's a tough one. I'm not sure that Alex Smith ever was going to win a Super Bowl.
He only went to the Super Bowl in the first place because of Cap.
Josh Wyatt says, I feel like the 7-8 week number is the agent setting up Jimmy to look tough and gritty when Jimmy comes back in the standard 6
That's what I was thinking, like tough and gritty. That's all I was thinking. Like that
Josh
was
Wyatt's
motivation.
Smarter than me. Yeah, that's a good point. So they say 7-8 weeks, and then all of a sudden he's there for like the beginning of the playoffs.
But I think the play me, like, I want to play thing. I think that holds weight too. That's what I was trying to think. Like, is it just to show like, hey, look, I'm tough. I'm not that injury prone because it's not a Liz Frank, and I'm trying to come back. So, like, to me,
right.
It was like,
he has to flip the narrative from he's injury prone to he's so tough. He's the biggest competitor of all time.
Once people realize how much he's missing again,
there's a lot of money at stake with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's like a corporation, man. He keeps going back from worth $100 million to nothing. $100 million, nothing. Like, he is literally Bitcoin. He's Beanie Babies.
Yeah, he is.
I swear, man. They're trying to salvage this and just convict. Oh, he's so good. This is so valuable. It's the future.
And you know what? I kind of thought it was like so ominous that something like this was going to happen to Jimmy, because when you told me, it's like, his bad stretch is coming, Jose. His bad stretch is coming. And I was like, you know what? It might be, but I don't think so. He's playing way too well. Something else might happen. What's the other thing that's going to happen that's most likely in his career? Getting injured. And it was like, damn.
And why did he get injured? Why did he get injured? Bad habits. And he would say he's being a competitor. I'm trying to stay in field goal range. I'm trying to fight for a couple extra yards. You're trying to fight for a couple extra yards? How did that go in Kansas City in 2018 when you should have went out of bounds? You should have learned these.
I don't think that was too much his fault, because there was a free rusher that came straight at him.
That's true. That's true. Go down. That's true.
There. So I blame that. Look, remember last week we were like, hey, is the offensive line overrated? You were 1,000% right. They allowed 4 sacks. I don't know how many of those were on Jimmy. At least one, right?
No, free rushers are on Kyle, man. You got to have some answers.
That was abysmal, dude. So you know what? you have a lapse in coverage. A lapse in assignment. That's unacceptable. That's terrible. On the first drive.
Still go down. Go down. He was trying to run away from both guys. They were both on his back. He was like, I think that's the music that he had going in his head when he was running away from them.
We've seen him use his legs and make plays, and now all of a sudden we're just going to hate on him for it when it finally doesn't work. I mean, I don't know.
Go down.
I blame it more of the lack of the free rusher, dude. If that guy just at least has like a hurdle to get through to delay half a second, who knows what would happen.
So Jimmy Garoppolo is sitting there with a broken foot or whatever, being like, you know what? It's not my fault that I got hurt for the 8th time in my career. It's not my fault. Hey, it's one of those things. I don't see it. I think at some point it's your fault, man. At a certain point, go down. Tom Brady goes down. Peyton Manning would have went down. Drew Brees would have went down.
All those guys cannot move anywhere near as close as Jimmy. And as much
Jimmy
as
can't move. He runs a 5 flat.
No.
No.
Peyton looks like he's in quicksand.
That's what Jimmy looks like. He has the heaviest feet of any quarterback I've ever seen, man. He looks like he wears size 27 feet. Size 27 sneakers.
Dude, Peyton Manning looks like a donkey just like kicking in place and like he can't move anywhere. The way Peyton Manning moves, it's like the Scooby-Doo cartoons when you just.
All right, enough of Jimmy. He's out until he comes back. Glass Half Full Guy says, it seems to me the Niners like the idea of Trey, but not actually playing him. I don't know. I could be wrong, but just feels like that to me. Yeah, I think they just really want to develop Trey in practice, and they hope that one day he'll step on the field and be ready. Like, I don't know. I think that's what they want. They don't want to really put him on the field and have to like take a step back because they're in a win now window. Well, then why did you draft him? Why did you take him? Why'd you want a project? It doesn't make sense. But they think they can develop him on the sidelines, in the training room. I still need to see Glock Purdy run QB power. He runs his own read, or he did it at Iowa State because he runs a 4.8. Purdy can avoid pressure, unlike Jimmy, and I like that. See, that's what I'm saying. Jimmy can't avoid pressure. Jimmy tries to avoid pressure. When he has a clean pocket and he can extend a play, that's great. But when he tries to avoid pressure, it's all bad, man. All bad. Purdy can avoid pressure. Oh, I just read that, but I guess I needed to say it twice. Request a trade next year, bro, at Trey. Dude, he doesn't have that kind of standing, man. I'm sorry, but he can't.
He's probably untradeable.
He's in such a bad spot. All right, let's talk about Brock Purdy. Jose, tell me how Brock Purdy can create further quarterback controversy on the 49ers.
If he plays well, like anywhere near well, and I'm talking about Jimmy Garoppolo 2020, 2019, 2021 standard, because all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know what? That Brock Purdy, he played pretty well. How many more games are left? Like now, 5, 6? So let's say Purdy goes like 5, 8 touchdowns, 2 to 4 picks. Even that will be pretty fine for a third-string quarterback who just came in the last minute. And then he goes to the playoff, and if he does that, and especially the exclamation point, they win a playoff game with him. Mm-hmm. Dude, the controversy is there. Who's the quarterback? Is it Trey? Is it Purdy? Jimmy coming back, and then
Trey hasn't won a playoff game.
Now it's like, oh, great, we just threw another element. Officially, the piece of the pie just got another slice cut open, and now we have more things to talk about. Now it's gonna be more. It's gonna be chaos. And Kyle Shanahan's going to be more pissed about questions. And it's like, you know what, dude? This is what happens. This is what happens when you're over here juggling quarterbacks and the system's better than the actual talent, apparently. Because now all of a sudden it's going to be, dude, this is going to snowball like crazy for every game that Purdy plays well at. You know, it doesn't matter what they say. It's just Trey's team. And it's like, is it? You know, because Purdy kind of like, you know, played well. I mean, you already know they're going to keep him back if he does play well as a backup or something. You know what's going to happen if he does play this good? The controversy is going to be, there's an open competition. There's an open competition. We're trying to push Trey.
Purdy earned it. Where they're
going to be 70% leaning towards Trey, but that 30% of like, you know what? If Purdy actually just played pretty well. If it's even, we want, you know.
Two quarterback system. Yeah. Two quarterback system.
The Saints all over again or something.
Because here's the thing. I feel like Purdy has a great chance to play well. We've seen him play well. He's got a great supporting cast, a great defense. He's going to win games. It's very if he stays healthy, which the other two guys weren't able to do. If he stays healthy, there's a very good chance that he could make a claim that he should be the starting quarterback next year, especially if the competition is just between him and Trey, if Jimmy's gone. And I think what's funny is if Jimmy leaves, some of his fans will go with him, but a lot of them will transfer over to Brock. And so, because I think what you have is, I'm not trying to bring race into it. It's not that. It's a stylistic thing. There's types of quarterbacks. You got a spectrum of quarterbacks. You got the pocket quarterback and the dual threat. And some people just have preferences. And I think there are some people that just want their quarterback in the pocket. They want their quarterback in the pocket playing like Jimmy. Some people really think that Jimmy's way of playing is the best way to play quarterback. And Brock plays like that. I mean, they're a little different, but he plays like that. Not a big arm, gets the ball out of his hands quick. So I think what you'll see is he's going to have a lot of support. All he has to do is do the stuff that Jimmy did. Manage the game, claim credit for the victories that the defense produces, all that stuff. Just, be gritty.
It's not going to happen, though, because I think he's going to sneak it up, to be honest. I think
that's what happened. That's what happened to Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. It's what happens to most backup quarterbacks.
It's giving me 2020 vibes all over again with Purdy because I just don't know. Like when people are saying, "Well, they could do it with Purdy," it's like, can they? Because third-string quarterbacks get found out eventually. Yes, he looked excellent. He was in there pretty much cold, no warm-ups, no practice. That was impressive. Tip of the cap. How many times do backup quarterbacks do that? A lot. And eventually
a lot.
2 to 3 games.
But can they do it
line,
3-4 times in a row? Exactly. Bailey Zappi.
Yep, 2 to 3 games down the row. All of a sudden, it's like, we kind of found it out. We got some tape on you. We kind of know what to do against you. I mean, I know people say this. Hey, this is quarterback. He's in the unlike other backups. He's in the right place to succeed with the talent around him to coach. Decent enough offensive line, running game, and it's like, yeah, you know what? That's we've heard that before, like in other seasons with the same with Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard. It didn't happen, and even then, even then, that's not going to cover up the mistakes that he could potentially make if he is that type of self-destructive player. I just don't see how it's going to go. They're going to go to the playoffs for sure. I just expect him to be a first-round exit, to be honest.
I just don't think he's been tested yet. Like, he went up against the worst road defense in the league. They were giving up a pass rating of 115, and he put up an 88 rating. Now he's going up against a great road defense that gives up an average quarterback rating of 88 in Tampa Bay. Like, what is this going to look like? Look, he does have a great defense and great weapons. So it's possible that he really can put up good numbers like Jimmy did because you're supposed to. I mean, how could you not? But my question with him is really like, can he stay healthy? Because so far, quarterbacks haven't been able to do that on the 49ers. And you could say it's a great place to play quarterback. You got a great defense and great weapons. For the 8 games that you're healthy. And then the next guy gets to play because you're hurt. I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a problem here. And I keep bringing it up. The Dolphins exposed a flaw in the Niners' offensive scheme. If you blitz the hell out of them, it seems like they don't necessarily have the right hot routes, or they were totally scouted. Those hot routes were covered. There were no answers. And what Brock Purdy had to do to beat blitzes was freaking dodge them or make throws while taking hits. That's not a solution. So I'd like to see how Kyle fixes that. Otherwise, it's his fault. Because, look, Jimmy got hurt on one of these blitzes where no one was picked up.
Yep.
And where he should have went down, yeah. And Kyle should have had a hot route that was open. From Jimmy's perspective, you got me hurt, Kyle. What the hell was that, Kyle? Same. But yeah, we're talking about Brock now. What?
No, I was gonna say, look, imagine if Tua did settle down the game and he makes just half of the throws he missed because the guy couldn't hit water if he was on a boat. I'm thinking they probably lose that game because the defense played well, but they did leave a lot of wide open receivers. It literally was the whole game. Tua couldn't settle in. Right. He couldn't settle into the playoff game, and you're expecting Purdy to actually answer all those points or whatever drives that would have been a lot more of a tighter situation. I mean, they were in a tight situation. They were only up by 6 with 5 minutes left. But at that point, you kind of let the running game take over. Your defense took over. I mean,
but again, Jimmy's coming back. It doesn't matter, dude. He just has to get through the end of the year.
He's coming back in the NFC Championship game. They're not making it there.
Hey, Josh Wyatt thinks he's going to come back sooner. Josh Wyatt says, appreciate the compliment, but if I'm smarter than you, why am I paying you to live my dream? Can you think of a team that's more fun to cover? What's a team that's more fun to cover than the Niners?
That'd be a soccer team, to be honest.
The Cowboys have a big fan base, but I feel like they're kind of boring. They're kind of the same story every year. Patriots aren't that interesting anymore. Green Bay's a train wreck. Pittsburgh sucks. Seattle's interesting, but not as interesting as this team. Chiefs are really good, but good teams aren't always the most interesting. Like the Warriors aren't interesting. The Niners are interesting. Warriors are boring as hell. They were interesting when they played James Wiseman. I like when they play James Wiseman.
Warriors are boring because regular season basketball stinks. You know what? The NBA TNT with Chuck, Ernie, and Kenny and all them, Shaq, that's more entertaining than the actual basketball product.
No question. And when they get to the playoffs, it's great. J. Mark Garza.
I'll watch that all day.
I would. Why couldn't Trey get the same offense Kyle called for Brock? Shaking my head. I still maintain that Kyle Shanahan overreacted to training camp. Trey struggled in training camp. Struggled is too blunt. He was up and down. He would have good days and bad days. He was inconsistent. He definitely had good days. He definitely had bad days. He was going up against this defense. And I think Kyle's like, well, damn, he's not ready. What quarterback was going to have only good days against this defense? I mean, I haven't seen it. Maybe Patrick Mahomes. Maybe. So I think Kyle overreacted and was like, damn, man, he's just not ready as a passer. We got to run him until he gets there. Man, look at him in Houston last year. That's how you should have been calling plays from week 1, week 2, but you didn't because of training camp.
The Arizona game plan all over again.
It was. It really was. So an overreaction to practice. Allen Iverson should have talked to Kyle about that game plan. You're talking about practice, Kyle. Trey has to stop being so nice. Press the issue. Thank you. We're all on your side, Trey. Post a video. Press the issue. I feel like he has no one in the media. Him and his agent are not talking to anybody. Tell someone that you're ahead of schedule if you are. Maybe he's not. All right, next topic. Jose, give me one way Purdy is an improvement over James Richard Garoppolo, who some people call Jimmy.
Only some people?
Some people.
You know what? In the limited action for that game, he actually has several things that I think he does better than Garoppolo. But the one that pretty much stood out the most to me was how mobile he is. All right. So the last super chat guy was on the money about that. He's a lot more mobile. So all those blitzes that came out, all the free rushes, whatever, Purdy had that natural instinct and that twitch or whatever, that fire off the gun to, I gotta go away from this. Like it felt like he just knew. He had that instinct to move around and look natural. The only thing that I feel like kind of like that derails him is his pocket acumen's a little bad. That's how he ran to that sack, and he kind of almost did another time where it was like, what's this guy doing? Why is he spinning around, going 5 yards deep south and then rolling out? But whatever. The point is, he's faster. He can move around. He looks comfortable as hell with his legs, which I'm wondering if now we don't see Kyle utilize more of his bootleg actions. Which
we tried. He just was keep bootlegging him into. Maybe if Trent Williams stopped tipping the plays, they could actually fool people with play action. But I digress.
Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing that more.
Yeah, like Trent Williams is in my room or something. Yeah.
That's why I think. That movement that they gave him, like
it never works. It never works. Well, maybe. Anyway, moving on.
They're still going to use it.
They never fool anyone with their play action this year, but it's not Trent Williams' fault. Keep going.
I don't think anyone's really being fooled so much. I watched a lot of Browns this year. Jacoby Brissett's been found with some free rushers. I don't think no one's falling for that. Everyone's founded them out. That Kyle Shanahan type of situation.
It seems like it's scouted. Like, yep, I agree with that.
1,000%. Even with Rodgers. But yeah,
whenever the Niners go under center, it's like, well, this play isn't going to work. Whatever they're doing, right? Whenever they're under center, I'm like, this is not going to work. If it's a run, pass, whatever. Like then in the shotgun, I'm like, okay, this is probably going to work. Whatever it is.
You just wonder how there's going to be a way to circumvent that, which maybe you will because you got a faster quarterback now who looks natural on the move. This is going to be ways now. You're not going to have to worry too much about like those rushers in a way because they were getting after him. They were getting after Purdy a lot.
All right, with Purdy, what I see that I like a lot, he can throw on the run, rolling right. Jimmy can't do that. He made some really nice throws rolling right. And obviously he avoided sacks that Jimmy can't avoid. So those two things right there are nice. And then also in the red zone, I think he's might be, it's early, but I like him in the red zone. Jimmy seems indecisive in the red zone. He straight dropbacks and it's like, oh, no one's open. What do I do? He's had some bad interceptions. Well, not some, but that one interception in the red zone against Kansas City was terrible. And I like Purdy. I thought he made some nice throws in the red zone too in the preseason. So I think those are three ways the offense is improved with Purdy. I'm not necessarily certain that it's going to always be better with Purdy, but those are three things while he's healthy that I like. I think the red zone offense could improve.
I'd answer that. So, he looks more. He plays with more swagger and confidence. I feel.
Yes.
Not to say that ever.
Less
Jimmy
fear of getting hurt. Jimmy's gotten hurt so many times, man.
And that's another thing I was gonna say too. Yeah. Is like it's not just the confidence. It's like just the way after the score touchdowns, like the camera zooms on, like you just see his body language, where he's just like literally like one of those dude football players. He's like, he's getting juiced. And another thing is like the confidence part.
He kind of like struts around after.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It's really funny.
Pick, a borderline undrafted free agent, where it's like I got nothing to lose, man. Which if he keeps that attitude, that's gonna be freaking huge to him and to the 49ers.
You have to have that attitude.
Yes, and you have to because
he carries himself like he's a day 1, day 2 pick. He does.
That's beautiful.
He carries himself that way. You
always feel that confident. You can't have that in any position.
Nick Mullins didn't. You could feel his apprehension. Nick Mullins. You know what I'm saying? You can see like the sweat dripping off his brow. Like he wants so much. Like, it meant so much to him, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But with Purdy, it seems, and I'm not saying Purdy could fall apart. But right now, he hasn't lost yet. He's undefeated and he's cocky. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, anyway. I don't think he'll waver too much if that's the version we saw in terms of at least the mental standpoint. I'm not talking about the actual like execution and stuff. But another thing that I liked is, even with all the pressure that kept coming to him, whether he was getting hit to the ground or running around, he never wavered off that too much either. Like honestly, it almost made him play better. I watched the game back last night. He played a better second half than he did first half, I think, because he looked more poised and calm.
I agree.
You just saw the confidence. Not like he didn't have it as much in the first half either, but you just saw he got better as he settled in more. And I think a lot of that was just his mental strength. Because so many times we saw Jimmy against the Saints, he got hurt early on, the pressure came early on, and he was skittish. I mean, never at one point did I feel like Brock's not skittish. I mean, that guy knows he's gonna get hit, and he's just like, whatever, here you go.
Well, he's not skittish yet. I mean, wait for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? But hold on. I'm not saying that he will. I'm just saying you get hit enough times.
We'll see.
You get hit enough times, it happens. So hold on. Two more things that I like about him, maybe over Jimmy. Ball placement, which you could say accuracy, but like Jimmy, you know, they always say he's super accurate. Yeah, but his completion percentage is good, but he throws a lot of high passes, a lot of passes. Yeah, I think his ball placement is super overrated. I like Purdy's ball placement so far. He's good at hitting guys, you know, not too high, not too low, in stride. I think that's intriguing. And then the last thing is the touch.
One, remember? They dropped?
Touch. Yeah, but touch. Jimmy has none. Jimmy misses deep throws because he throws them on a line. Like, I think this guy actually, I'm not saying he has a stronger arm than Jimmy because I don't think he does. In fact, he doesn't. But he has touch, which means he should throw. You don't need a strong arm to throw a deep ball. That's a touch throw a lot of times. And the reason Jimmy can't hit the deep ball isn't because he doesn't have a strong enough arm. It's because he has no freaking touch or sense of depth. You know, I mean, he'll overthrow it, he'll underthrow it. I think this guy actually can hit Christian McCaffrey if he's wide open running a wheel route. I think he can. So that's nice. That's like 5 things we just listed.
Hell no. I don't think he can do that. I think he has a terrible arm. This guy has 0 zip, 0 velocity, no dart. I feel like I was watching it. I feel like a lot of his throws that were going over 8 yards. It felt like it was going slow motion, and I felt that way in training camp. He kind of made me like reel back my take when I saw him in the preseason game. I was like, okay, he can actually dart a little more. And then I saw this game, and I was like, you know what? You actually had like a handful of throws that kind of looked like it was slow motion. So to me, I think Jimmy can hit it, can throw it, can bullet it in there a little more better.
Yes,
ball placement, I'll give you 1,000%. Ball placement, it just goes slower motion for me, and I'm just like, you throw a more pickable ball because if you go against faster players, they might be able to jump you.
Do you know what Brock Purdy's fastest throw was at the combine, miles per hour? Do you know? I looked it up. Can you guess?
Oh God. Okay, tell me what the average is usually, because I don't know.
Average is like, I think Jimmy was like 53, I want to say, 53, 54, maybe 55, somewhere in there. Huh? 51. 51.
Damn,
Brock Purdy.
Next one would have been 47.
That's really low on the scale, though. I think usually most good quarterbacks are 53 and above. There are some examples of people below it. Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. But usually those guys are super good athletes. I'm just saying, there's a reason this dude was like
but those also
Mr. Irrelevant. He's got no zip on his throws. 0 zip. And he's small. And he's not running a 4.5. He's running a 4.84. So, I mean, that's why it's not like the whole league was crazy to pass on him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no.
But he's accurate. He's accurate. So before we take some more questions, I want to do one more Purdy topic just to finish it up, because I've been thinking a lot about who is this guy? Who does he remind you of? And I've heard Jesse Naylor, who's on the channel, compared him to Christian Ponder, who was a first-round pick. I like it because Christian Ponder threw 51 miles an hour too. Christian Ponder had a messed up shoulder. That's why he had no velocity. But he actually was a better athlete than Purdy. He ran a 4.7. He was bigger.
He actually ran the read option.
Yeah. I Ted H6 on Twitter compared him to Taylor Heineke, which is another good comparison in terms of stature and arm. But Taylor Heineke's a better athlete than Purdy. He runs like a 4.6. So I got a comparison for you. Unless you want to go first, because I got one.
No, you go first, because I need my mind to jog for this one, because I never really gave it a thought.
Okay, this is my comparison for Brock Purdy. Mac Jones. And let me explain it. Mac Jones, first-round pick. He's 6'3", Brock Purdy 6'1", a little bit shorter than that. So the frame, Mac looks a little bit more like a first-round pick, but frankly, I mean, look at his body. Look at his arm. He doesn't have a strong arm. If Brock Purdy was at Alabama with those weapons, what would his numbers have looked like? I mean, he completed 72% of his throws at Iowa State. So to me, it's like a little bit smaller. He's like a junior version. He's like a junior Whopper. He's a junior Mac Jones. But I mean, in terms of like arm strength, touch, accuracy, mobility, very similar. Now, Brock Purdy
Probably
never got in trouble and never did the 100 mil thing. So maybe he's a little bit more. He's more experienced than Mac Jones. Mac Jones was a 1-year starter, 1.5. Anyway, that's my comparison. Mac Jones.
That's a good one. Yeah, that is a good one. I'm trying to defer.
I felt like Mac Jones was horribly overrated. I mean, like, first round pick. Dude,
no, 1,000%. Even at the 15th round, he definitely was a second rounder. You don't draft first round players like that who are like so mid in terms of athletic ability and
exactly
in the first round.
Because you can find guys like Brock Purdy in the 7th round who were like, runs the same 40. It's like, oh, he's just 2 inches shorter. Well, who cares? That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. Not much. And I like to think that like Kyle last year wanted Mac Jones, and they traded up, and he was like, all right, guys, we're going to take Mac Jones. And the whole organization was like, oh, how do we talk him out of this? What do we do? And Adam Peters or someone was like, all right, I got an idea. Hey, Kyle, I like Mac Jones too. He's good. But before we spend the 3rd pick in the draft on Mac Jones, I think we could get someone really similar with literally the last pick in next year's draft. And Kyle's like, who? And Adam Peters is like, Brock Purdy. And Kyle's like, who's that? And Adam's like, watch his tape. And Kyle's like, okay, I see what you mean. I'd like to think that happened because they're so similar. But what does that mean for Trey if Kyle really does like Brock Purdy?
I honestly, I think if he does like Brock Purdy, I don't think it matters. Look, I think that's why they really look. One thing that Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers do value so much is we love the person so much. They weigh that a lot, sometimes even more than what the player can do, which is kind of like a little crazy. Look, I see it works and it doesn't. It works because
Solomon Thomas.
It keeps everyone, it keeps everyone in the locker room more like uniformed and unified versus like if you had like someone who's like, you know, kind of like, you know, an a-hole essentially. So versus that's why you never have player issues there in the locker room. Why do
you think Zach Wilson got just buried on that team?
Dude, as soon as Mike White, they had the whole team wearing Mike White shirts. If that wasn't indicative of how much they hate that guy, oh my god, dude, he's never.
Why do you think Baker Mayfield's bouncing around the league?
Exactly. So
no one likes him.
After that, it was.
Why do you think Jimmy Garoppolo's hanging around here like a barnacle? Because everyone likes him. Why do you think Josh Johnson just got signed by the 49ers for the 4th time?
Familiar, and
everyone likes him. Yes.
That's why I never thought Baker was ever coming, even if the Niners had a chance.
Why do you think Josh Rosen washed out of the league immediately? No one liked him.
Be that,
you can't be like that unless you are literally Aaron Rodgers.
Unless you're raw. Yeah, you have to be raw.
Unless you're super raw. And even then, that's tough. Anyway. Mac Jones. He wanted Mac Jones. They talked about a Mac Jones. He ended up getting Mac Jones in next year. And now Trey Lance. And now they really do have Trey Lance and Mac Jones competition next year coming up. Who do you like better? The guy who has literally nothing on his throws, but he's gritty. Or the guy who has a lot of velocity on his throws, but has never played football in his life? Who do you want?
I honestly thought he was comparing to me more like to Jimmy, to be honest, just a little more athletic, Jimmy, and I think because I kind of I had that takeaway in preseason, and it's like the way he kind of stands in the pocket and just like flings it like the quick release. Like I had the Jimmy, like I don't. It's just the same. You know, Mac Jones, Jimmy, and Purdy are the same.
They're very similar.
Quarterback.
They're very similar. Yeah.
Some are more athletic than the other. All three don't have his arm. All three only like to go in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
They're all pretty much the same level. Kind of like tier.
I don't know Mac Jones' velocity because they didn't have the combine that year. It was the
COVID
year. So, but it just looks to me like him and Tua have nothing on their throws. Purdy, like watching Purdy and Tua on the same field, it was like, yeah, like they're both playing with a Nerf ball. Look, they're playing an NFL game with a Nerf ball. It's amazing. Ball
Remember when
dies at the end?
Yeah. Or when the Dolphins showed that video in OTAs or training camp of like Tua to Tyreek, and Tyreek had to backpedal. It's like, way to go, social media team. That's bad. That was hilarious.
Chris says Purdy is Linsanity. He will get exposed soon. BCJ, BCB. J doesn't stand for Jimmy, does it?
It does stand for Jimmy.
Because that's not no one calls him that. No one says that.
Or not unless he's talking about, no, it has to be Jimmy.
808 says they didn't blitz when Jimmy got hurt. They showed blitz but rushed 4. They just down blocked. You're right. Sorry. You're right. They just down blocked. It happened a lot. Is that on Kyle Shanahan or Brendel? Good question.
It was the left edge.
Yeah,
it was the left edge rusher. It was on Trent Williams' side. Williams didn't look at him. There was a receiver, I think, lined up in the slot. He just stood up and he just got in a free rush. He's like, all right, here comes. I'm in the fast lane. Bye-bye, Jimmy.
Yeah.
It was
there
that
were
easy.
examples in that game of overload blitzes and Kyle Shanahan not having hot routes though. But
I think when he's talking about Jake Brendel, like, is that Brendel's fault? Because he's supposed to like be like, hey, you got this guy, you got that guy, you got this guy. So I do see that it could be Brendel's fault. True, could be.
If Lowell stayed in New York, Grant would cover the Jets. Oh, Jets would be fun. Jets would be fun.
Jets would be fun right now because you're just punking Zach Wilson.
Oh man,
it'd be so fun to eviscerate him. My
just
God.
like an endless dunk line on Zach Wilson.
Because the Jets fans would be on your side more than Niner fans would.
They hate him. Yeah, it's true.
They love
They're
Chris.
so salty over there. Yeah, Sean Weaver says, which current Niner calls the most audibles? They're not allowed to call audibles in the 49ers. Kyle doesn't let them do that. Have you ever? I mean, they'll like do like the the can thing, which means call the. Go to
I was
the
going to say, I think they only
play.
give them like just the 2-play sequence about like, hey, you have a choice to either check out to a run or check out to the opposite, like just that. But I think that's a standard thing. I don't think they have like a full array of audibles where they could just change to 1 of 5 plays.
Yeah. Flave says, real test. I love how he embraced the Flave. Real test for Purdy will be on the road in Seattle. Will be good test for whether he can handle a playoff atmosphere. Niners should cover this week. That will be a great test, but I felt like this last game felt like a playoff atmosphere. That's why Tua crumbled. I think this one against you're going against Tom Brady. That's a playoff atmosphere, a team you could literally face in the first round. So I think these are all tests. These are all tests.
And that's a defense that's going to be like pretty difficult to run
Tampa?
on. So Brady's going to have to be pretty nice.
Yeah,
nice.
and like again, Miami just showed a bunch of effective blitzes that the Niners didn't do a good job of picking up. Now you got to go against Todd Bowles with a rookie quarterback that hasn't seen this stuff. Okay, Kyle, you better be on top of it this week.
Yeah, and Levante they like to blitz with Levante, so they're gonna go. He's gonna.
And you know what good defensive coordinators do to rookie quarterbacks? They blitz them. They light them up.
They like to trap them.
Oh, you haven't seen any of this stuff. Yeah. So I mean, it's gonna be shock and awe. Kyle has, and it's on Kyle to protect this kid.
Yep. Kyle and the other players, which it always was even with Jimmy, but now it's like it's kind of funny. We've gone through the 3 levels. The pressure has intensified on 3 levels. Going into, we're like, Trey Lance, it's all on you, Kyle, and the other players. Help him get up to speed. That was 1. And then when we got hurt, we asked, is the pressure increased? Oh, hell yeah. Now it's like the 3rd level again. It's like, Jesus, dude, how much more can this get?
Because if he doesn't fix this, it's not just that they're going to lose to the Bucs. The kid could get hurt. It's a violent game. These are big men blitzing him, and he's not big. So, Kyle, this is so serious, man. If you keep Brock Purdy upright the rest of the year, you got a chance. Got a chance. But if you got to go to Josh Johnson, who's been in the team for a minute and a half, I mean, I like Josh. I don't know. It'd be tough. It'd be a big ask. Niner Dog says the worst playoff quarterback in history does not give you the best chance to win the playoffs. Seriously, what a loser mentality. Super Bowl or nothing. Let's go. Yeah, I like them just rallying around Brock. But, I'm saying, what if Brock gets hurt too?
No matter what, man. I think Brock's going to be the starter. Jimmy's just going to come back and be the backup. That's it.
Flave says if the Niners don't win this week, it could get scary quick. Raiders will probably be on a 6-game win streak, and Wash could be tough too. Need this win this week. I agree.
The Raiders certainly look like a threatening team, especially with Jimmy out now versus Purdy. Because look, they're playing. They're not out of the playoff race. The Raiders have a weak schedule. They're gonna have a lot to play for. Yeah, they went from like top 3 pick to now all of a sudden like they're in the middle of the pack. It's kind of nuts. Washington too. Although Washington, oh my God, I watched that Giants-Washington game to a degree. They played for a tie. That's weak. They do not have playoff mettle. The Niners will get trouble by them, but they should beat them. My God, that was despicable.
Papa Shong says, do you think Glock is better than Mayfield? I don't know.
Glock Purdy?
I mean, I don't know. But here's the thing. The Niners couldn't have gotten Mayfield. He got claimed by the Rams. The Niners were – and I think, the Niners said they didn't want him. They knew he was going to the Rams. And I think it's better to say you don't want him than to say you do want him and to have him go to your rival. So, I don't know. We'll see. I think you could argue that Mayfield is in the middle of, like, the worst season ever, and now he has to learn a new system, and who's to say he can do that now? It's mid-December. At least Purdy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if that injury occurred, like, week 6, they would have definitely been on him.
Yeah. Tiger says no quarterback is safe while 69 is on our team. Ain't that the truth? Reef West says Purdy threw a pick 6 backwards versus TCU like Jimmy. Oh, man. Well, we have things to look forward to then. I mean, I do. Damon Rice says, Brock, your world. Damon Rice says his height concerned me. Trajectory is suspect. Yeah, I just kept thinking I just kept thinking, man, Tua's an MVP candidate. Brock Purdy's Mr. Irrelevant. They're the same guy. One guy's left-handed, one guy's right-handed. They're the same height. They got the same zip. I don't know.
I think Tua has better zip. It was just his everything was just like inaccurate. I'm not saying he has great zip. I'm saying
maybe that was just how I felt when I was there, but maybe I'm just a hater.
I don't know. I watched it. It didn't look like it was going slow motion. It looked fine. It looked average to me.
Yeah. Sal, thank you. Mexi Mob 1987, thank you. And now we got one more topic. And this has nothing to do with quarterbacks. This is an article Jose wrote yesterday, and I couldn't agree with it more. It's a point I wanted to make after the game, but we've just been talking about quarterbacks nonstop. But let's talk about the running backs. The Niners have had Christian McCaffrey for more than a month, and frankly, he's been a big upgrade for this offense. The passing game in particular. When it comes to running the ball, he's fine, but his backup Jordan Mason seems to be having more success. He's built for the beating. There's no reason to give Christian McCaffrey all that punishment between the tackles when he's so effective in space. Don't you think that Jordan Mason should be getting the bulk of the carries?
Yeah, I think you just hate on him because his nickname's CMC. But no, it's yeah, he has to get the bulk of the carries. I was screaming at the TV like, Kyle, can we get Jordan Mason a little bit more carries because he's running the ball so well. I don't understand why Kyle, when he sees certain players like excelling, it's like, why don't you circle back to them more often? Like, like to me, like it's like going back to the Trey Lance thing. It's like why are you running him to the ground when you didn't even let him throw early? It's like either you have it or you don't. Jimmy Garoppolo, if he's able to hit the deep throws, why don't you go back to that more? Jordan Mason, he was averaging 8 to 12 point yards per carry the whole time, and every carry went for like at least like 4 yards, unless like the offensive line couldn't block people. So I think he needs to get more. He needs to get more. He looks more efficient. I think it should go like this. He needs to be the 12 to 18 carry guy, while McCaffrey's the 8 to 12 carry guy. Not only, and it's going to be beneficial because not only does he look like the better runner, more efficient runner, it's going to take off more of the load, more of the hits that McCaffrey got. Because look, after like 4 games, he was already having knee irritation, whatever the hell irritation is like
right.
Knee, whatever that means. And it's clear he looked better as a receiver. Look, you're officially like you were right about like Mitchell's probably the better runner than McCaffrey, which is like, all right, you know what, he is, and whatever it could be, whether it's because defenses are collapsing those running lanes more when McCaffrey's in there or not, whatever it is, it's clear they're better with Mason. And McCaffrey makes his heavier impact, more influential impact when he's running routes, whether it's out of the backfield or lined up. So start giving Mason more of those carries because he can absorb those hits. He has that beautiful vision that fits that zone scheme so perfectly. I mean, that second run he broke off for like 15 yards or whatever. You could see the way he swung it, found that very little crease, cut and go. And that's exactly what Kyle wants. Don't let his bulkiness deceive you. He's elusive and has some speed. So I think it's perfect. Start giving him more carries, especially in the middle of the game and some of the crunch time, and watch good things happen.
Yeah, I mean, last week, Christian McCaffrey got 25 touches. That's too much. 17 carries and 8 catches. I like the 8 catches, 10 targets. Absolutely, man. I mean, he had 10 targets, 8 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, Debo hasn't been that efficient all year, but 17 carries for 66 yards, and one of them went for 30. So that means like 16 went for 36 yards or something.
He was averaging 2.6 to 2.9 per carry until that point.
So you're just slamming him into the line so we can get tackled by 4 or 5 people. Like, stop.
It's going nowhere.
Give him 10 targets a game, but then like sprinkle in 8 carries, and that's fine. And give the rest to Jordan Mason, who's built to run into, loaded boxes. It just seems like so obvious. And the only reason you would do it any differently is if you felt insecure about trading too much for Christian McCaffrey. He's like, oh man, I got to justify this trade by giving him 25 touches and all the goal line.
That's what it feels like.
Nah, man, don't do that. Because what you're going to do, you're not going to justify the trade. You're just going to hurt his numbers and get him hurt. Yeah, man. I'm just saying.
And I think it's better with Mason because I think the play action game will work more because I think the thing about Mason, was this a thing in training camp? He was piss poor and pass pro kind of?
I never saw that. I just feel like the Niners.
I was like, wait, how would you even know in training camp? I don't think that they do it too much like that.
When asked about Mason, the coaches always say, he looks good in practice, but we just don't know if the moment will be too big and if he'll hold on to the football. And then when he finally played well, they were like, he was great. He held on to the football. So I don't know, maybe in practice, because there's a lot of practices after every practice after training camp. We're not there. Maybe he fumbles in practice because they always say that. Hey, held on to the football. I've never seen him fumble, but
yeah, you're not making an emphasis on that. It wasn't a problem.
They keep saying it, so it's got to be that. And again, there's all these practices that the media's not in front of. So it's possible he fumbles every freaking day in practice and not in games. But so far, he looks like a guy who holds onto the ball pretty freaking tight. Like Jeff Wilson Jr. was all over the place with the ball, still is. Oh, frankly, and I don't know. Jordan Mason looks like he holds it high and tight, but we'll see.
Yeah, look, keep giving McCaffrey obviously the start. Give him the early touches, like the first four, and then from there on out, give him like one every like 5 after that. Give it to Mason, and then when it's like crunch time in the game, that's when I was like, okay, I understand why you're gonna go to your high price running back. That if you want to ISO with him, sure, that's fine, that's cool, I get it. But when it's like after those first 5 carries, it needs to be a heavy dose of Jordan Mason at that point. It just it works. And now all of a sudden the trade for Jake Wilson looks perfect sense. It's like, all right, I see why you guys traded him away. You got this guy with Mason. It's looking beautiful. Now it's not looking beautiful. It's looking optimal with your offense. So let's give him more carries because you're going to need to find that best form of attack with the running game with Brock Purdy in because everything needs to be perfect. And I think when your perfect offense is when you're giving more to Mason and McCaffrey's over there just running routes.
Yeah, Mason is averaging 5.4 yards per carry. McCaffrey with the Niners is averaging 4.1. No brainer. You go with the guy who's averaging 5.4 yards per carry. Give him the carries, and that only preserves McCaffrey for the playoffs, which is the point. And I think he'll probably be more effective on 7-8 carries than 17. So 808 says Bosa's going to get 5 sacks this week. The Bucks LT is awful. He's going to hold or get beat. That's true. 69 looks like a Hall of Famer compared to that guy. I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I mean, this is another one where the Niners D-line should dictate the result of the game. That being said, it's Brady, and he's going to, if they play zone coverage, he's going to get the ball out his hands really quick. He stinks, huh? Is he worse than Brock Purdy?
No.
So we'll see. Miguel says Trey gives you the best option to win the Super Bowl. This offense only scores field goals with Jimmy G. That is true. I'd like to see if they score touchdowns with Brock. What a name. Drippy Dad says QB comp Sean Hill. How would you motivate Debo?
I like Sean Hill.
Debo? Sean Hill, that's a good one. How would you motivate Debo? It's hard to. He's very rich now. I don't know. What do you want to?
You know what I was going to tell you? I thought about it last week. What was the last game? Whenever our show 2 weeks ago, when we talked about players who have the bag who clearly are like underperforming now or just not carrying as much. I'm going to go that far. But
yeah,
I was saying Dre Greenlaw got the bag and he's playing the best ball of his life. So,
Fred Warner too.
Fred Warner's been so consistent. Jeez,
yep.
So good.
Yep. So it's not everyone, and what the team needs to be able to do is tell the difference between the guys who are really about it and guys who are just marketing themselves. And I think you got to be leery of the guys like Debo and Kittle who are marketing themselves as old school, throwback, love the contact, never going out of bounds. Like, once you get that $25 million signing bonus, are you still going to be that dude? You know what I mean? Like, it's unsustainable, and we all know it, and you know it. And you're not going to get the third contract if you keep playing like that. So you're paying a guy to play like a style that everyone knows he won't sustain. That's a problem. Fred Warner can sustain his coverage and his style of play. Same with Greenlaw. I think maybe Ayuk too. But Kittle and Debo, we probably should have seen this one coming. I mean, Debo's going out of bounds now.
I think the Debo one was more predictable because, 2020 was...
We saw it. 2020.
Absent. 2019 was progress. Cool. The arrow was pointing up. And 2021 was a complete outlier. I mean, look, we said it in the offseason, in off-season shows. It's like, look, who has the most pressure on them or expectations? And we're like, Debo's kind of has the most pressure because there ain't no way in hell he's going to live up to the same thing last year. I don't think we expected it to be this underwhelming, but him meeting last year's standard was always going to be a far cry.
WTM says Kyle McDaniel is the little homie C-Cone C. Yeah, I mean, Kyle has a great defense and McDaniel doesn't. I feel like if you put McDaniel as the head coach of the Niners and Shanahan as the head coach of the Dolphins, what would the team's records be? What would the Niners' record be right now if Mike McDaniel was their head coach instead of Kyle? What would the Dolphins' record be right now if he was their head coach instead of Mike?
I feel like it'd be
Something
the same.
to think about.
For the Niners, at least. Maybe the Dolphins lose a couple more games.
NG49 says, I'm completely done with Jimmy. If he comes back, who's to say he won't be worse because of his injury? That's a toss-up. Let Purdy finish the season. Yeah, it's not just that he's struggled in the playoffs before. It's that he's coming off an injury. Will he be 100%? He's always kind of a slow starter. When he's come off injuries in the past, he hasn't played well. It's kind of taken him a few weeks to get – he's a rhythm quarterback, right? That's what they say. He's not in rhythm yet. He's not in rhythm yet. Okay, well, he's not going to be in rhythm coming off of this.
Yeah, this news that he's coming back means nothing to me, to be honest, dude. It means nothing to me. Whoa, jeez. It means nothing to me. It's going to be Purdy season no matter what. It's just going to be – Garoppolo's going to be the backup. And if, like, say it's halftime, Purdy's like 8 of 19 throwing picks, Garoppolo, get in there. Because we already saw how – he's rusty when he's not in game shape. He goes in, Denver game all over again. So it's going to be Purdy all the way if they do get that far.
All right, we got to wrap this show up pretty soon because I got to get down to
wrap it up, B.
Kyle, what? You better wrap that gavel up, B. California Bear says, shout out, Jose. I've been reading your articles the last few months. Always a good read. Jose does a great job. Every day, dude produces. P.S. You're Grant's goon. No, I'm Jose's goon. I'm Jose's goon. You don't know how it goes on the road. Daniel says, CMC gives you the ability to run or pass. He's always open on checkdowns. Mason makes it an obvious run, but he's good. Reminds me of Henry.
If it's obvious, if it's still working, who cares? Though that's what I'm saying. It's
not an obvious run. There's 4 other eligible guys on the field. I mean, Elijah Mitchell wasn't getting targeted either.
Look, he's averaging. Every game he's touched the ball. Everything's net extremely positive. So
we're not saying
if it's obvious and it's working pretty good, who cares?
We're not saying that Mason should start or that he should get more snaps than Christian McCaffrey, but he should get more carries.
McCaffrey will still get more touches and looks overall. Yes. It's just in terms of running back, you know.
Yes, because McCaffrey should be getting. Yeah, McCaffrey should be getting 16 to 20 touches a game, right? Like 8 to 10 carries, 8 to 10 catches. That's a healthy workload.
Yep.
And then you give the leftover runs to Mason and a couple to Debo, although those just really ain't been hitting this year. Last one, they were out. No, that was the last one. That's the end of the show. I got to go to Santa Clara. Kyle, 11:30? You know, Chip Kelly used to do 10:30. Really chapped my hide. Really grinded my gears. One of the reasons I didn't like him. Now, you want to hear some irony? I hated Chip Kelly. I said they should fire him after 1 year. He did get fired. Now, a couple weeks ago, I paid money to go root for him against Cal. Paid money to watch him coach my team. Hey, funny things happen, right?
You didn't go for that team. For him, you went for your team, for your alma mater. He's
true.
And they barely won against abysmal Cal. Barely won.
Hey, man, Chip Kelly, you get what you pay for. Actually, you don't get what you pay for. Chip Kelly. Stank the Tank says this update on Jimmy's injury guarantees he will be on the Niners next year. Gives Kyle another out when they don't win the Super Bowl.
Oh, I don't know about guaranteeing that.
Oh, I hope you're wrong, man. I hope you're wrong. I'm tired of eating Chef Boyardee for dinner every night, man. He's the Chef Boyardee of quarterbacks.
Grant, since you've been getting a lot of super chats today, I think you should use that to help the San Francisco Giants add money to Aaron Judge's offer, since apparently they like being cheap.
The best was when everyone was saying he was going to come to the Giants yesterday. I liked that part. That was the best. I was like, oh, really?
That John Hammond guy everyone hates him. Everyone hates him so much.
Well, he blew
People
it.
are saying they want him to like stand in the street when traffic or something like that.
Don't say that. Don't say that. But at the same time,
you should see the bat. It's nuts. That's like such a gut punch. I'm like, come on, man.
This is why I don't really try to break news that much. Like, if sometimes people tell me stuff, but like, it's a dirty game. And if your whole career based on being right about that stuff, and you do that, woo, that's scary. Anyway, show's over. No, someone just said something. Druber89. The show is over, though. Maybe they give it to CMC more because his presence keeps D on their toes. Is it run or pass? As long as 71 keeps stance, just a theory. Yeah, but look at his efficiency on the ground the last 4 games. Like, it ain't working. I don't know. Mason is just gashing you. McCaffrey's getting stuffed. Just go with what works until defenses prove they can shut that down and then adjust.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not 4D chess. I don't play 4D chess. I just play 3D. I don't play any chess, unfortunately. Show's over. Thanks for watching. I'm going to Santa Clara. See you tonight with Jesse. Good stuff, Jose. Great stuff.